very welcome along to Series 4, Episode 5 of Champ.ie's Road to Cheltenham Challenge, brought to you in association with Boylesports, Gowran Park Racecourse and Syndicates.Racing. Talking all things Cheltenham, the top performances over the 7 days and answering your hashtag big questions every Monday. Barry and Ronan will once again go head-to-head by giving one Ante-Post selection each week until the 2024 festival in March.
50 odds to go, Slade Steele, Rachel Blackmore all out from Lecky Watson and Paul Town, and then Stella Story and Better Days are heading up to the finish. It is Slade Steele continuing his progression over flights.
Showing over 44 points profit from 132 points stake since 2020, the Champ.ie Road to Cheltenham Challenge show is this season bidding to secure 4 years of Ante-Post profit in a row. The lads look forward to discussing your Week 5 selections, and don't forget it's important to update your full Ante-Post portfolio in the comments to help us keep track. Give this video a like for more Cheltenham content, and be sure to subscribe to the Champ.ie YouTube channel, Ireland's premier horse racing podcast. Enjoy the show.
Boylesports. Don't just bet, choose wisely.
Hello and welcome back to episode number 5 of the Road to Cheltenham Challenge. It's, of course, series number 4. We're very much on the road, myself and the Golden Groom, and it's proper national hunt weather out there, Mr. Groom.
Yes, very chilly indeed, and Storm Fergal threatened to wreak havoc with the fixtures in here this side of the Irish Sea this weekend, but everything went ahead. Tough work down in Cork for El Fabiolo, and obviously for John Bon as well, and too tough it seems for Constitution Hill, which I'm sure we'll come on to as a talking point this week.
We certainly will. Storm Fergal, how about a bit of Storm El Fabiolo? We'll come on to that as well. Performance star ratings will be looking, I suppose, at some of the big performances this weekend. But first and foremost, how was your own weekend, Mr. Groom? Did you venture far from Navan?
I went up to the Big Smoke. As you know, I've moved out of the Big Smoke recently down to Trim here in County Meath, and I went back up for my good other half's birthday. I've got milled, actually, believe it or not. I used to complain because my mother had her birthday in December. It has her birthday in December, I should say, and I used to complain about having to buy her 2 presents every year, within 20 days of each other, which was small beer compared to now, because now I obviously have a girlfriend who has a birthday in December, and I have a little goddaughter who has a birthday in December. So now I have multiplied by 6 the amount of presents I have to get. So I need to back a few winners these days, Basil.
Absolutely no sympathy for you. Basil Senior was 60 at the weekend, so we had that 60th party. The 2-year anniversary is coming up next weekend, and Christmas on the horizon as well. So presents galore, Mr. Groove. Why don't you kick us off? We'll go from the bottom up. Slade Steele, even a bit skimpy with his rating. Thoughts on the race, thoughts on the rating?
Well, first I'll go through the performance. It's a pretty good race, grade 2, 2.5 miles in Navan. I think they went around not an amazing clip now. Wouldn't say it was any fast run. I don't think it was a huge staying contest. And Slade Steele obviously won his maiden over 2 miles. So he did have a bit of speed laid on that might have just proved significant here against the likes of Lecky Watson, who obviously won and was kind of all out to win over 2.7. Was it a Thurles or Clonmel? First time out, I can't completely remember. But I think he might have just quickened up away past him more, or maybe not quickened by him, but that bit of speed might have just won him the day here. But I thought he did it nicely. I know Henry was saying after 3 miles, doesn't really seem as an Albert Bartlett type, but could go up to 2.6 at Dublin Racing Festival, which I guess would make sense. That's obviously the race that Goodland won last season. Those in behind, like Lecky Watson, had a form boost through Shannon Royale, who bolted up on his next start, so he could be okay, and I see him as an Albert Bartlett type of possibly stellar story as well. I think he looks a bit of a stayer. Better Days Ahead, slightly disappointing, and they pulled well clear of the other one. I think my impression here was that he was a bit quicker against 3 stayers, and that won him the day, and I'll just hold judgment on him at this sort of intermediate distance. I think there could be a couple better than him in the division.
And I suppose sticking with Navan, Indiana Dream, I mean, he was held up off the pace, obviously had one run in a maiden hurdle on deep enough ground at Fairyhouse, and we didn't see him since then, obviously, and he looks a scopy individual. You're giving him a 4-star rating. Thoughts on the performance, and then thoughts on maybe where he might end up in the spring.
Possibly could have gone a bit higher here, Basil. He was really impressive because he took a lump out of one earlier on. There was a really bad mistake, and in fact, Mark Walsh probably did well enough to stay in the saddle. I guess he was shunted forward a bit, but he seemed to jump fine after that, absolutely fine. And you'd love the way he worked his way into the race, travelled away, and he's ended up just cruising up there and going clear. And the further he went, the better he looked against, a couple of useful sorts here. That Shambally kid was a big chatty horse last season. Looked decent enough over in novice hurdles. Looked like he was always going to be a good chaser. And San Felician has been a talky horse for a good while now, and obviously had a bit of race fitness behind him as well. But he's fairly put him to the sword. Won very easily. Stayed on very well in the heavy ground. Probably 3 miles would be no problem to him. Maybe that's the way they look. Obviously, he's winning over 2.5 miles here, and the heavy ground is fine. I guess if you're looking at him with regards to Cheltenham, you would have a slight concern that he didn't show up after his maiden hurdle win at Fairyhouse last season. Maybe something went amiss. And Frank Berry did mention after the race, as long as he stays sound, which he did, like he wasn't prompted to say that, and maybe that's in the back of the head. Maybe there's a fragility to the horse that is there, so you would be slightly worried with a horse like him. But obviously, huge scope. Only a 5-year-old, only a couple of starts, could be anything really.
And how do you split them? I mean, just looking at what McManus has in that stay and novice chase division, obviously Corbett's Cross. Spoiler alert: I didn't put him into the team sheet this week, but I have to say I was strongly considering it prior to what I seen here with Indiana Dream, because I think he said exactly, he was held up off the pace. Obviously, it's really, really testing ground up at Navan at the weekend, but he's a real galloper, isn't he? And he jumped his way into contention. And I would suspect that the further, you mentioned it, the further he was going, the better he looked. And I would say that, an extended 3 miles is really going to suit this horse. Obviously, he's only 5, so it'll be interesting to see him maybe on the new course. Would that suit him maybe a little bit better than the tighter, sharper old course? So maybe the Turners made it good to go that route with him. Corbett's Cross, Factifoil. The way Factifoil ran at Navan in his beginner's chase, you wouldn't mind bringing him back in trip. Or keeping him at the intermediate distance. So could Corbett's Cross and Indiana Dream perhaps go for the longer race, the Brown Advisory? It'll be interesting, but he's absolutely stacked in that area, isn't he, JP? And a cracking team. But for me, that was the best performance up at Navan at the weekend. I loved my trump card as well in the bumper, and I can't wait to see him going over hurdles. He was very, very impressive, wasn't he? Patrick Mullins with a rare ride for Gordon Elliott. In terms of the McManus team, sticking with the McManus team for a moment, John Bon, you've given him a 4-star rating. I completely agree with you on both John Bon and El Fabiolo. Obviously, I've given him a 4. I thought it was 2 very solid performances, and these 2 look head and shoulders above the rest in this division.
I would have thought so, Basil. I mean, I've seen some people crabbing it that Edward Stone got a lot closer, but I think Edward Stone is probably not given enough credit. And, is back at Sandown, where he was so impressive in Tingle Creek last year, and off the back of a race fitness run, where the theory with some people there was that he was given an easy time late on, wasn't, aggressively ridden once his chance had gone. And I think that this race may have been the proving of that theory. He really has got into it and had a good crack at John Bond this time. And John Bond's winning on heavy ground, but I think Nicky is pretty certain he's going to be better on decent ground. And it was soft ground in the Arca last season, so I do think that's a factor. If you're a John Bond fan and you want to back him for the champion chase, or you think he can turn around the form with El Fabiolo, I guess you'd be hoping for a bit of better ground. Nicky said something very interesting about him, that they had to ride him a bit more patiently this time, because they didn't want to. He's best when he's ridden aggressively into fences and using his jumping like that. But on the heavy ground here, just had to be a bit more eased back with him. I just love to see him now on a bit of decent ground, good to soft ground, and I think he could be even better again. So I think he did well here. I wouldn't crab the form at all. Edward Stone's a good horse. Haddocks Des Obeaux is a good horse in the soft ground. I think that will be proven in time. he's quite a good horse on that heavy ground, and he had a surface there, and they pulled well clear on Nube Negro, who's probably a bit of a busted flush at this point. But I thought he did more than El Fabiolo. Now, what did you think? Like I was, if you offered me the two performances, I thought he actually did more. Albeit El Fabiolo was making his seasonal debut, so we'll give him that, I suppose.
I thought it was pretty equal. I mean, Haddock Sazzobo has made it a really strong test and has run very, very well. It was interesting. The owner was quite bullish as well. He was well tuned up for the race, coming off the back of an absence, obviously, where he did fall in his first run of the season. But, you know, I think the owners were pretty bullish of a big run. He's had his ground and have got a really good lick. But it was just very interesting. I think the big thing I've taken away from John Bon in his two performances this season is I think he's making more ground at his fences. He's attacking his fences. He's relaxing more in his races. And Nicky did say in the aftermath that, you know, they've had to, as you said, they've had to hold on to him for that little bit longer, especially at the weekend, given the ground conditions. They didn't want him, you know, doing too much too soon. But once again, he's come there absolutely tanking. He'd be better on nicer ground. But it leads me on to El Fabiolo, and I'd be very, very strong in saying this, that I think he's a lot on his plate to reverse the form with El Fabiolo from the Arca last year, John Bon. And I just think El Fabiolo, for me, at this moment in time, he's the most exciting horse in training. I think he's an absolute machine. And it would have been interesting, obviously, if an Ergamine had stayed sound. Imagine the two of these going at it in the 2 mile division. El Fabiolo, I mean, he's just an absolute monster. And what I love about him is almost in an Ergamine fashion, it's the ground that he covers and the pressure that he can apply on his rivals in that middle part of the race. Last year, I was almost campaigning for him to step up and trip, but you see how free he is early on in the Hillyway on this type of ground. I mean, he was still tanking coming to 3 out. He's over raced for the best part of a mile and a half here in this Hillyway. The standard of the race, look, Moscada's gone. They've got a decent clip. You know, he's taken the lead. But for me, the big thing with El Fabiolo this year is how his jumping has improved. You know, of the 12 fences in the Hillyway down in Cork, I counted a mistake at the second, slight mistake, nothing serious, and he wasn't the most fluent at the last fence either. But I think the ground he's making up, he's 5-5 over fences, and I think he's going to be better once again going left-handed. And if these two clash in the Clarence House, even though it is going right-handed, I'd be all over El Fabiolo to uphold the form of last year's Arkle. And in terms of the performance, I'm not going to give him a 5-star rating because, like that, I just don't think they could go fast enough for him. He was pretty free and over raced for the first mile and a half of the race. So I'm going to give him a 4-star rating. But in terms of where I see him finishing up this year, I think he will be the champion chaser. How do you see it?
Yeah, I'd be a bit more pro John Bon just on the ground thing. I think he could be, like, they're very closely matched. Basil, you think back to that Grade 1 Aintree, John Bon won by a neck over hurdles. Like they are very pretty closely matched, and 5 lengths in the Arkle as it was last season. Like, that's not much in a 2 mile chase. That's a mistake, or getting out of position at some point. You know, that's like, there's just not much in it, especially on good ground, which I think would play more to John Bon's strengths. And another thing just to mention, I wonder, was it a factor at Cork on Sunday that El Fabiolo wasn't running with his mate Dysart Dynamo, who set things up for him last season? He used to bomb off in front, and that used to really, he used to kill off other rivals, but El Fabiolo used to thrive off it because he's such a brute of a horse that he can travel at that speed and he can stay on strongly at the end of that 2 miles. I think that's a big aspect to him. And I wonder, will he be benefited by running with Dysart Dynamo? Now, obviously, they're in different colours or different owners with Willie's, but Willie trains the both of them, and Willie seems to have some sort of power over all his owners that he just runs them where he wants. So if Willie Mullins is maybe thinking a bit selfishly for El Fabiolo, maybe he might chuck in Dysart Dynamo wherever he goes next, or indeed, all being well, that he'll end up in the champion chase anyway, Dysart Dynamo.
Sticking with performances, in the first 5-star British performance of the series, for me, I thought this was performance of the weekend. I came on Friday, I came in the Grade 2 3 mile chase at Sandown on testing ground. Stay Away Faye. I wasn't a believer going into the race, Ronan Groome, but I'm starting to become a believer in Stay Away Faye. I mean, this was given weight, obviously, to Giovinco, who for me is a very talented horse, and I believe Lucinda Russell and co are gearing him up towards a tilt now at the Cato Star Novices Chase on a little bit of nicer ground. He's come there absolutely cruising. Stay Away Faye he's one hardy fella now. He's a hardy boyo. And I think the thing for me is, look, obviously 22 fences around Sandown. It's a proper jumping test. They're only novices. And if it was to have if there was any small little criticism of Stay Away Faye, he gave a couple, maybe one or two, a little bit too much air, but that was it. I mean, the race, it was interesting listening to Harry Cobden after the race. You know, he would have probably preferred a stronger pace and a lead, but the way he jumped his fences, I mean, quite aggressive at his fences, attacks his fences. I love that typical Paul Nicol chaser, novice chaser. He was obviously giving £3 to Giovinco. And for me, you know, the way the loose horse has actually hampered Stay Away Faye. There's been even though he got an easy lead in the race, there's quite a few things that maybe didn't go his way in the race. And it turned into a little bit of a speed test. You know what people say, that stamina won the day for Stay Away Faye, and it probably did in the end. But, you know, there was that point in the race where it turned into a little bit of a dash. And I think that would have probably suited Giovinco more so. So I thought he showed really strong battling qualities, and I'd be very, very keen on his chances for an RSA after that. And, you know, currently priced up at odds of 5-1 with Boylesports. I would not put anyone off that at this moment in time. He's going to have one more run. It's probably going to be the Reynoldstown. I think Paul Nicol said that afterwards. But this fella now is going to take some whacking, I think, in the RSA, or the Brown Advisory Novices Chase on the Wednesday of Cheltenham. 5-star rating for me, Ronan. What do you think?
Yeah, I thought he was good. I kind of saw the race the same way you were seeing it. I thought Giovinco came there travelling like a good thing. Must have went a short price on the machine, and he's just outstayed him, hasn't he? Showed real strong battling qualities, and they've pulled well clear. Obviously, it was disappointing to see the other horse whose name escapes me now.
He was going well, the Changing Man. He was going quite well at the time.
Changing Man, yeah, he was, and that would have given the form a bit more credence, I suppose. But I mean, Giovinco was impressive first time up, and on a lot of people's shortlists. And Stay Away Faye, he's just outstayed him, hasn't he? And you can imagine Sandown's obviously a tough hill to get up on heavy ground, so he's shown all his stamina there. But it'll be a similar situation at Cheltenham, where he was good last year, obviously in the Albert Bartlett Festival winning form is hugely significant. So as a backer of Stay Away Faye, all you're looking for him to do is show a good level in grade ones or grade ones, grade twos this season in the build up to Cheltenham. And you know, when you get back to the festival, you know, you've been there and done it. So I can see why a lot of people like him, and I see why he's the sort of price he is now for the Brown Advisory. And I suppose the only question is, would he go with the National Hunt Chase be an option if they see him as a really strong stayer? But I would have thought, yeah. I mean, like if I was an
Paul Town or Paul, I was going to say Paul Town, and Paul Nichols ruled it out afterwards. Said if he goes to Cheltenham, it will be for the to Brown Advisory. Yeah,
that's good then. Yeah, that's what you'd rather. I mean, if I was an owner, I'd like that. It would be like the National Hunt Chase should be like a second option always. I think if you felt you weren't good enough to go for the Brown Advisory, you should always be shooting more for the stars with a grade one, rather than going up for there just because you think it's a bit easier, etc. So I'm glad to hear that, and I can see why he is the price he is now, and hopefully a few of our viewers have backed him or are on him at decent prices for the Brown Advisory.
Yeah, there's quite a few Stay Away Faye fans in the comments section. We're talking about JP McManus's hand, I suppose, in staying novice chases, in that staying novice chase division. But this fella's going to take a bit of beating, I'd say, if he turns up fit and well. The only thing to mention just on Stay Away Faye, obviously the Albert Bartlett, and he's done it the hardware in the Bartlett last year, but that, again, it's, you know, that longer run in, it's a more of a galloping test on the Friday at Cheltenham on the new course. I know we referenced this quite a bit on the show, but that tighter track on the first second race, isn't it, on the Wednesday, the Brown Advisory, it'll just be interesting. But I saw nothing in the performance at Sandown to suggest that this horse won't go very, very close in a Brown Advisory. I think, you know, he showed everything you need. You know, he's showed enough pace. I think the stronger, Harry Cobden did say that in his interview afterwards, that the better the race, the stronger the pace. that's this fella's going to come alive. So I have to say, as my second 5-star rating, my first 5-star rating to a British trained horse in Stay Away Faye is starting. I'm starting to grow fond of this fella. So Champ.ie, if I've pronounced that right, if my French is up to task, Ronan Groome, I'm giving him a 4-star rating. Quality of the race, quality of opposition, questionable. And I tell you one thing, it was a pure swamp, wasn't it, down at Clonmel? This was as testing of conditions as you're going to see all season. And that I can remember in quite some time. But he's a 9-led winner, obviously finished 10th in the champion bumper, was all the rage last year, wasn't he? Early on in the season, he was in plenty of portfolios in the comment section below for the champion bumper. And it was interesting listening to Patrick Mullins after the race. He almost got bored of bumpers last year. I mean, he nearly ran out at Fairyhouse, didn't he? He nearly ended up in... He sounds
a bit like me.
Yeah, exactly. But he nearly ended up in Dunshaughlin. He nearly ran off the track. And speaking about the horse afterwards, the one thing I've taken from the race is jumping. He was very, very slick over his hurdles. 2 mile 3 on bottomless ground down at Clonmel. But Patrick said he looks great. He looks even better this year. He's working well at home. They're very pleased with him. And I suppose the long run to 2 out at Clonmel, you know how long that running can be from 3 to 2 out. He's got a breather into him there, Patrick. And he's completely idled at the second last. He took it out of the ground, but that's not a tired horse because you see the way he jumps the last. He jumped with loads left. He's got one flick, and the way he picked up, that's what was most impressive for me, Ronan. Number one, the way he picked up for hitting the second last, and when he got one flick off Patrick, the turn of foot he's shown on that type of ground, I thought was quite impressive, and the way he's hit the line as well. So I think you'd have to be impressed with him. And people are talking Albert Bartlett for Chapeau de Soleil. I'm not entirely sure he's that much of a slogger. He definitely has a bit of boot, and he definitely jumped his hurdles to suggest that would you be rushing up to 3 miles with Chapeau de Soleil? He's clearly a strong stayer, but 2.5 miles might be the trip to run him over at this point in time in his career, would it?
Yeah, possibly. Yeah, I mean, you're always looking at these hypey Mullins bumper horses that, it didn't quite work out for him last season, but obviously there was a bit of chat there for a reason, and he has shown a bit more. Maybe hurdles might be the making of him now. I didn't think he beat much now, to be honest, and the time wasn't amazing or anything like that. So I thought it was fine. A good start. Slightly surprised you included him, actually, Basil, to be honest with you. I kind of bring in one other maiden hurdle winner just as a cross-reference. I was quite impressed with this Caldwell Potter at Navan on Saturday, because I watched the first race with Gordon's other horse there, Gigaro. Thought he was very good, and then this Caldwell Potter's come along, and he's won even more impressively in my book. He ran 12 seconds faster than Gigaro did in the first race. Really stayed on strongly towards the end. This is a brother to Mighty Potter, so it hasn't just quite worked out for him yet. It wasn't an amazing horse in bumpers or anything, but second it's for me, first time out of Punchestown, so a good little form bout for him. If anyone's a fan of him this season, it's for me. He was a decent bumper horse last season as well. He's really shown the benefit of that, and he's put a few nice horses to the sword here quite easily, and I just wonder where they go with him as well. He stayed on really strongly on the heavy ground. Maybe 2.5 miles as well might be his bag, but he's warranted if they did want to go for one of the grade ones at Christmas, the future champions or anything like that, he's warranted to go with that now. I thought that was pretty impressive.
Certainly was. It'll be interesting to see, will he go down the graded novice hurdle route, or would he be maybe one for fences in time? It's just interesting to see what they do there. But next section of the show is the tracker horse. Let us know your best performance of the weekend down below, and do let us know your tracker horse. We'll come on to that, the tracker horse for this week's episode, number 5 of the Road to Cheltenham Challenge, after this.
Gowran Park Racecourse, the premier racetrack in the southeast of Ireland, is located on the outskirts of Kilkenny City. Gowran is your number one choice for corporate days out, stag and hen party events, and an overall great local racing experience. Known as the race that stops the county, the famous Goffs by Estes Chase 2024 takes place on Thursday the 25th of January.
in the finish of the Gospel Estates. Invitation only, and Ruby Walsh on the near side for Willie Mullins' 7th win of the race. Invitation only has beaten Outfitters Opus.
With packed crowds expected once again this January, you can book your early bird tickets online today. Visit gowranpark.ie online, click the link in the Champ.ie podcast video description, or scan the QR code on screen to purchase right now. Eddie and the team look forward to welcoming you all to Gowran Park Racecourse this winter.
Grangy and Patrick Mullins.
We had justified favouritism, but sharp object out in front will win for John McConnell and Alex Harvey.
Western Victory Silver Land. That'll be the finishing order.
Yes, a massive thank you once again to our sponsors, of course, Gowran Park Racecourse, the premier racecourse in the southeast, and not forgetting as well, Syndicates.Racing, of course, our syndicate partner, and Boylesports as well, our betting partner. But look at that, €50 off your first share today when you get involved in race horse ownership with Syndicates.Racing. Willie Mullins, Gordon Elliott, Henry the Bromhead. Of course, we have Joseph O'Brien, John McConnell, Gavin Cromwell, amongst a lot more. Of course, plenty of Christmas presents to be bought. Not long to get your presents. Enter the all caps in, of course, into the checkout when selecting your horse with Syndicates.Racing, Champ, all caps, and hit the apply button to get €50 off your first share today. And of course, I look forward to having Eddie Scally as well on the podcast to put up a big competition this Thursday in relation to Tiestes Day. Save 25% off. Save 25%, should I say, right now, if you scan the QR code on screens or click the link in the video description to get your Tiestes Day tickets. It's going to be a fantastic day, Thursday the 25th of January. So it's going to be a big day in the southeast, and we look forward to be down there, of course, on track.
Boylesports. Don't just bet, choose wisely.
I gone for another one this week, just one for me. I went for Stuart Crawford's mare, Ailey Rose, who finished 4th at Navan in the 3 mile handicap hurdle there. I thought that was a really good run. It was her first run of the season. And she's a horse now. She loves a heavy ground, and that's when she's best. So she stayed on really strongly, albeit that it was her first run of the season. So she did well, and this was probably a good race. I think you'll see plenty of winners out of it. Canal End especially was backed off the boards. I think there's a big handicap in him this season over 3 miles, possibly on better ground. Somerville Boy is there. He's an old flame for a lot of people. Bit of back class, and We'll Have One obviously was a good winner. So I think there'll be races to one with Ailey Rose this season, possibly a good race. Maybe I was looking at maybe something like the Pertemps qualifier at Punchestown, but she's had a couple of runs there and not really ran well at all. So maybe something at Limerick or something back at Navan again on heavy ground would be what I'd be looking out for her. Or maybe the Crawfords might decide to travel her over to Britain for a mayor's race, something like that. But I think there's a race on her off the mark of 126.
Yeah, interesting. I'm going to go to Sandown last Friday as well. I mentioned the card, of course, where Stay Away Faye was the winner of that Grade 2 Novices Chase. But it was over 2 miles. It was the Class 2 handicap hurdle on the 8th back on Friday, on really testing ground. And the horse's name is Classic Anthem. Came with a big reputation after winning a point-to-point for Rob James. Of course, last year joined the Tizard team. It has had problems since. Now trained by Jim Boyle, and 5-year-old son of Affinity. This Classic Anthem really, for me, it was a very impressive performance on really testing ground. Obviously, over the 2 miles, this horse is going to be better stepping up and trip for sure. But racing off 114, I thought he looked potentially very well handicapped, and had finished third behind Sight of the Border on his first start of the season, but this was his first run in a handicap, and I thought it was a snug enough performance. Got 2 flicks from Robbie Dunn, was held up, came from off the pace. Looking at the size of the horse and looking at its style of racing, you'd think maybe an aggressive ride over 2.5 miles next time. Not entirely sure what the handicapper will do. I'm sure he'll be well reassessed, but he's only got 2 flicks, and that was only his first run in a handicap, as mentioned, and has had wind surgery since his first run of the season as well. So I thought it was a snug performance. Goes straight into the tracker, and we'll add that to our list of horses that we are tracking on the show. And of course, hats off to you, Roland. Nasalam with the tracker horse on week 1 And that's went on, of course, and won quite impressively last time at the weekend.
Yeah, he did it nicely. Step up on trip, and was well backed as well, and carried some of my cash as well. So he must be a decent horse. And yeah, he's probably still a tracker horse. Probably still one to look forward to. A bit unexposed, young horse, maybe more to come as well. So we could leave him in there for a while, Basil.
So let us know your eye-catching performance or tracker horse this week in the comment section down below. And of course, don't forget to put in your selection for episode number 5. Continue to update the portfolio down below, and make sure to get your big questions in as always. Right, the big race in focus this week, Ronan. We're going to skip on to Christmas. We're going to start looking at these races at Christmas over the next couple of weeks. And the first race we're going to look at, and it's just a race that you can potentially find one in, Ronan. The stay-in division in Ireland, home by the Lee, obviously 2-1, top of the market. Irish Point, will he go here? He's an option, of course, of the long distance hurdle as well, potentially, or the long walk hurdle, should I say? This weekend or 2 weeks time, should I say, at Ascot, 3-1. Sir Gerhard, 3-1. He could be interesting going back over hurdle, 7-1, and bigger the rest. What do you like in this Jack de Bromhead Christmas hurdle on home soil?
Yeah, it's an interesting race, I suppose, because you'd be looking out for what actually does get declared, with even a view to the stairs hurdle, like the likes of Asterion Forlange and that sort of thing. Absolute Notions is kind of an interesting one as well. So you'd be kind of looking towards that race to see what trainers are thinking with regards to that. Home by the Lee ran it quite well, but in behind Bob Olinger and Zanahira in the Lismullen at Navan, and that was a nice performance considering, like he wasn't beaten far in the stairs hurdle last season. Obviously won the race last year, so I can see why he's up there at the top of the market. I'd like to see Zanahira up and trip and just give him a try. Gordon flirted with that last season, and didn't he run in this race, and he just had a terrible experience altogether. I don't know, probably just not right at all. So he's definitely worth another go. And as you said, Irish Point for Gordon as well is interesting. There seems to be a big clamouring for him to go up and trip as well, which I'm not totally sure about, but it's probably worth a try, as in he's probably going to be below the level over 2 miles of hurdles. On a side point with that, I wonder, why doesn't Gordon and Willie, for that matter, go and run these horses in Britain, the likes of Irish Point and Zanahir and Piper, this sort of thing, because they'd clean up surely with Constitution Hill not even running in these grade ones. You're taking on the likes of Not So Sleepy and that and there, instead of running against Stateman and Imperi Pass. Yeah, but back to this race, I don't know, Basil, I don't have a strong opinion on it, but looking forward to seeing what does get declared. Absolute Notions catches the eye, I suppose. He could be interesting up at this trip.
Big questions this week. We've 2 of them. One in relation to Ballyburn. Obviously, the big clash last weekend with Firefox, and RBH 3091 is mentioning the fact that a lot of people seem to think that seem happy with the run from Ballyburn, and he's not so sure that, and he thinks he might find it hard. He finds it hard to see Ballyburn winning at Cheltenham after that debut effort. 7-1 for the Ballymore. He says is an awful price, especially when you have the likes of Daddy Longlegs and Farn Glory. And when you see what Daddy Longlegs has actually done to Irish Panther, for example, who's a nice type as well, was in behind, of course, Daddy Longlegs down at, of course, down in Tipperary last week. We had Ballyburn's bumper form. He said it has to be questioned now, coming into, I suppose he's talking about the Ballymore and prospects for the spring run. And what's your take on Ballyburn? I'd definitely be willing to give him another shot, but as you can see in the big question, everyone's not so sure of that.
Yeah, there's not my colleague, but Tony Keenan, who writes a lot for us now. He writes columns in the Irish Field, always really interesting. Made a good point in his column. I have it here in front of me from Saturdays. He said in the last 20 years, if you looked at all the Grade 1 winning novices from Closutton, only one of them failed to win first time out, and that was Ebizion in the Supreme. So, I'm sorry, I think he was corrected since, Tony, on Twitter, that Monkfish got beat first time out as well. But it just goes to show you that usually these horses are used to making winning starts. Now, albeit, obviously, he's ran into probably top prospect in Firefox, so you do have to mitigate there. slightly, and they probably are two very good. It was probably just a very, very good maiden hurdle with two top prospects, and Firefox come out on top. But I don't know. Should Firefox not be a shorter price for him than for the Ballymore on that running alone, at least for now anyway, until they run against each other? Seems to be a better prospect. Like, he did beat him relatively comfortably there, jumped better than him, picked up and went away. I'm not saying for sure he'll confirm the form next time, but he's definitely in pole position. So I'd be definitely thinking along the same lines as RBH. And with regards to this, I think just people have backed Ballyburn for the Ballymore, and they tweet out things and just want to be positive about it. But that sort of stuff tends to cloud your judgment, I guess. If you're a big fan of Ballyburn, or you've got a fancy price for a certain race at Cheltenham, you tend to be more positive than look at it objectively, and you're better off, I suppose, looking at it without a view to any sort of bet you've had, I suppose. And it was an okay run, and nothing more than that, I'd say.
How do you think the Champion Hurdle will play out tactically? Will he aiming two horses at it? He could have more than two in the race. Can you see there been some team tactics to get Constitution Hill beat, like they tried with Honeysuckle versus Benny the Jew clash a few years back? This is an interesting one. Could it be instead of the Ballydoyle tactics, could it be the Close Sutton tactics against Constitution Hill? It was interesting just that on the whole tactics thing of the Champion Hurdle last year. I thought they'd ride Stateman a little bit more aggressively, and he's such a laid back and straightforward horse. Maybe they might do that this time around, and it could be Imperial Pa that could be held up, and I think that might suit Stateman a little bit better if he's given maybe a little bit more of a, I'm not going to say an aggressive ride, but if he's maybe if he's in the first one or two. It was interesting. Constitution Hill last year, they couldn't even lead him to the third, so could he make it?
Yeah, possibly. Yeah, I think they could try all the tactics they want against Constitution Hill. When we do eventually get to see him, he's such a good horse that it won't really matter. He'll be okay. It is interesting. Like that he's right to bring up that Mayor's Hurdle. Like that, I remember thinking at the time, Willie Mullins is coming out and giving out about Robbie Power letting Honeysuckle up the inside, as if he should be riding as a part of a team or something like that. That was just a very shaky ground to be suggesting something like that. I don't think a lot was made of that. Look, it's definitely a conversation that's for another day, I suppose. But with regards to Champion Hurdle, no, I don't think team tactics are much more difficult, I suppose, than a 2-mile hurdle. In
relation to the Champion Hurdle and where I stand on, I suppose the biggest challengers, I would have Stateman over Imperial Pass at the moment. And I'd like to see Imperial Pass. I think he will improve the next day for sure. I thought that was a really good Hatton's Grace. Stateman, I'm not sure we saw the real Stateman last year in the Champion Hurdle, and I do think Constitution Hill is going to have to be at his very best once again. But if he is, he's obviously the one to beat. But Stateman, there could definitely be more to come from him. He could be a much stronger horse this year, and he could have improved. So it's going to be very, very interesting. Great to have those types about. Right, Ronan Groome, we're going to come on and look at some portfolios. And as mentioned, I think we're upwards of 100 entries into the Road to Cheltenham Challenge this year. And of course, the prize on the eve of the Cheltenham Festival, a VIP trip to the Boylesports Irish Grand National. Thanks very much, of course, to our sponsors, Boylesports. And we'll be awarding that prize. And I suppose it's the healthiest portfolio going into the festival. I know there was some suggestions as well, based on last year. Would it be fairer to award the prize to those, I suppose, who come out the most profitable? But I think getting yourself in a good position on the eve of Cheltenham, I think that's important, and we're going to reward someone on the eve of Cheltenham. So continue to update your selections down below. We've over 100 entrants in, and it's important to keep up the gallop. Jamie Smith, he has put in 4 selections so far. Will Mount for the Supreme Novices Hurdle, 16-1. Cracking bet. We're on it, of course, ourselves on the show. Well, I am at least. That was my week 1 pick as well. So that was back in the 13th for Jamie. I think you'll be glad the same as I will. Let us know what you think about Will Mount not running at the weekend on that absolute atrocious ground at Sandown. Not sure Ronan Groome agrees, but 16-1, good value there. Fact to foil. This is interesting, Ronan, 20-1 for the National Hunt Chase. I know Patrick has said that he'd love a spin on Fact to File over 4 miles, but I don't know about you. I'd be bringing this horse back. He was second in the Champion Bumper. You'd think he's all about stamina, but he showed plenty of pace at Navan. I'd be thinking Turner's genuinely for him.
Possibly, yeah. I mean, Jamie's playing a bit of very, very, very early Willie Mullins bingo, and that's a tough game to play, Jamie. I'd say I'll try to avoid those novices chasers, and yeah, look, if you get them there, it's great. And 20-1 probably would be a great price, but at this point in time, how do you work it out? Where he's going? Obviously, gone with Classical Dream, and I'm not crabbing any of these selections at all, Jamie. I like all of them, Classical Dream especially, but he has 2 other options as well there. You could go Brown Advisory, you could go National Hunt Chase. I would have thought those would actually be ahead of the Turners, given he was a 3 mile Grade 1 winner over hurdles. And it's just so difficult to guess what Willie's going to do, isn't it? And that's the challenge you have with so many races and so many good horses with Willie.
I wouldn't be surprised if Fact to File was Black Hercules 2.0, because, lots of people talking about him for a National Hunt Chase, and he ended up going to the Turners. But I think Fact to File, that was a very good beginner's chase, and he's a nice horse. So those getting involved in Fact to File, the big question is what race. I wouldn't give up on him as an individual. I think he's going to be a cracking chaser. Loved their route as well, if they didn't go hurdling with him straight over fences. The Florida Pearl campaign. Classical Dream, 16-1 for the Turners, as you mentioned, Ronan. He was like a dressage horse, wasn't he, down in County Tipperary? What a jumping performance it was. Not the deepest of race. He's getting on in years. Turner's Novice Chase, would I agree or disagree with that? Given the fact that they have Gaelic Warrior for the Turners, I would be thinking Classical Dream could go the other route towards a Brown Advisor. And of course, he's won a Supreme as well on the old course as well. Bear that in mind. He's not getting any younger, so with his jumping, and would that race suit him a little bit better, going perhaps at a slower pace in the likes of a Brown Advisory on the Wednesday. Mighty Bandit 10-1. He impressed me, Roland, up at was it Punchestown, wasn't it, on his debut? Yes. I think it's the shortest price of all the Irish juveniles so far this season, and he could be nice. That could be a good bet at 10-1. He's probably shorter now.
Yeah, I think he is. I actually haven't checked since the Triumph market, but he was impressive. I liked him a lot now. He clocked a good time. And I suppose we're waiting to see a few of these Willie Mullins juveniles that there seems to be loads of. But the first one was a bit disappointing, albeit went a bit wrong there late on, Batman Girac. But I'm sure the Grade 2 race there at Leopardstown will tell us a lot more there, which Mighty Bandit could actually go for. So
yeah, absolutely.
Reveal a lot more.
Yeah, well, we're heading from Dublin down to Limerick, and Wayne O'Byrne is into the competition. He's gone Irish Point for the Stairs hurdle. I don't think you'll see him at Cheltenham. Although if he did rock up, genuinely, if he did rock up in the likes of a long walk hurdle, for example, or if he did rock up at Christmas in the Jack de Bromwich Christmas hurdle, he was to win. I suppose the owner's hand force good to go with a 2-pronged attack to the Stairs hurdle. Personally, I think he'll go to 2.5 miles, and they'll keep him for entry. He might be tried at 3 miles prior, but I think Tiupu is very much the number one for Rob Corr in that division come Cheltenham. Sam Crow Hunter's Chase 10-1. No real opinion on that. Wayne, week 3 we mentioned Mighty Bandit, and Croke Park 25-1. We said when he retires, Rory, he's going to be captain of the Ward Hunt Union. What a beautiful specimen! But 25-1 for the Albert Bartletts. I don't think you'll see him winning a Grade 1 over hurdles, personally.
Yeah, possibly. I think that's the right race. If you ask me which race you go for, I'd say the Albert Bartlett at this point. He does look like that big staying type, I think he'd get... Yeah, I think he'd be in big trouble in a Ballymore now. He'd be very much caught for toe there. But in a Albert Bartlett, I could see, if I owned a horse like him, would I be even running in an Albert Bartlett? Probably not, to be honest with you. It's a race that often can be a bit of a bloodbath. And if he's going to be a better chaser next year, possibly just give it a swerve altogether. But we'll see.
Absolutely. Well, it's nearly time for our week 5 selections. We'll also be recapping on our selections to date. But spoiler alert before the break, Ronan Groome, we've had a right old swing this week. Very aggressive from both of us. We're almost like John Bon over fences.
Gowran Park Racecourse, the premier racetrack in the southeast of Ireland, is located on the outskirts of Kilkenny City. Gowran is your number one choice for corporate days out, stag and hen party events, and an overall great local racing experience. Known as the race that stops the county, the famous Gowran Chase 2024 takes place on Thursday the 25th of January.
In the finish of the Gowran invitation only, and Ruby Walsh on the near side for Willie Mullins' 7th win of the race. Invitation only has beaten Alpha's Opus.
With packed crowds expected once again this January, you can book your early bird tickets online today. Visit gowranpark.ie online, click the link in the Champ.ie podcast video description, or scan the QR code on screen to purchase right now. Eddie and the team look forward to welcoming you all to Gowran Park Racecourse this winter.
McGree had justified favouritism, but sharp up deck out in front, we're ready for John McConnell and Alex Harvey.
Western victory, silver last, never be the finishing order.
I've muted myself. We've had a right old swing this week, Ronan Groome. We've had some big juicy prices. And once again, thank you very much to our sponsors, Boylesports, for continuing to help us with, I suppose, our picks and enhancing those prices. And when we do put up our selections, we'll show you how to avail as well of the offers on the Boylesports website. It's, of course, in the Ante-Post section, under National Hunt and under Champ.ie price boost. Right, Ronan Groome, we'll go through our portfolio to date in just a moment, but it's time for week 5 selection. Take it away. Who have you gone with?
Yeah, I wanted to get one in before the Christmas festival action takes place, and I've gone for the Gold Cup market, would you believe? And I've taken Gentleman's Game for the great Mouse Morris. Look, he's going to run, I think, I'm pretty sure he's going to run in the Savills at Leopardstown over Christmas. So the potential is there for him to go and win that. He's like a 7-2 kind of 4-1 shot even for that. At the moment, now in a very conservatively priced market, he'd probably be a lot bigger on the day if so other horses show up. But look, just going to his profile, like he's only 3 starts over fences. He has beaten the Irish Grand National winner back at Leopardstown last Christmas. That was his first run over fences. He didn't appear again after that for whatever reason. But he has started the season here really well. He's second to Easy Game down in the PWC at Gowran. That was a really good run. And then he's obviously lowered the colours of Braveman's Game over at Weatherby, which was a really, really good run. So that's only his 3rd start over fences. I think he has a lovely profile for the race. This is what I think we nearly stress every year. You need that 7-year-old going on age, that second season novice chaser, like Fast or Slow is, I suppose, and Jerry Colombe. And granted, Jerry Colombe has done a lot more than him. He's near unbeaten over fences and has the grade 1s, but this fella hasn't really had the chance yet to show, and what he has shown in his 3 starts has been really, really promising. And I love Mouse Morris with a good Cheltenham horse, because he tends to know what to do exactly. He obviously trained the winner of the Gold Cup before at War of Attrition. He was a second season novice chaser like this fella is, and very generous price boost from Boylesports there out to 28-1. So I think that's more than generous price to get involved with. So yeah, that's my way into the Gold Cup.
28-1. I'm going to better that run. I'm going to go, how about 50-1? And we're going to, I suppose, playing with the novice races, it can be quite tricky, especially. But look, I'm going to take a swing. The horse is entered up on Thursday. The horse is called Only by Night for Gavin Cromwell. Has assembled a lovely little team. He was probably disappointed with the way his horses ran at the Royal Bondrinmore meeting, but this horse really impressed me. When winning the listed bumper up at the Navan Racing Festival. Only by Night. She's 50-1 at Ronan Groome for the Mayor's Novices Hurdle. And I just love the way she won at Limerick. the form has worked out. She's then backed it up at Navan Enlisted Company, and she goes hurdling. She's entered up in the mares' maiden hurdle, of course, at Naas on Thursday. The meeting was abandoned last year, but Brandy Love won this exact same race before heading to the Sol Arena at Fairyhouse on her start prior to, obviously, she didn't run at the Cheltenham Festival in the Mayor's Novice, but that was the plan. And I think it's a good route. This could be the route for Only by Night. I love the way she shaped through the race up at Navan. She's really non-complicated mare. Both her wins have been on quite testing ground. She had a start in the UK for John O'Neill before transferring to Gavin Cromwell. That was on really fast, rattling, quick ground. I don't think she wants it very good, but you're going to have good to soft at minimum at the Cheltenham Festival. Paul Carberry, we had Keith on the show, of course, Keith Donoghue, prior to Fairyhouse, just asking him about this horse. He's very excited about this mare going over hurdles. I think she could be star quality. I thought 50 to 1 was very, very reasonable. Taking a swing, obviously we haven't seen her on the racetrack over hurdles yet, but she was a winner of a point-to-point. Paul Carberry, I believe, does a lot of work with this mare at home, so she's in good hands. And I just loved the way she done it at Navan. It looked a decent little race, and she's barely come off the bridle, and she's come up that hill well. And I think the ideal route for Ronan would be to hopefully, fingers crossed, win at Naas on Thursday and go on to the Sol Arena, and what price is she going to be then? So I think 50 to 1 is a fair old enhancement from 25 to 1 for Only by Night for Gavin Cromwell for the Mayor's Novices Hurdle. Look, we haven't seen much of Willie's. Gordon obviously has brighter days ahead at the top of the market, but this mare could be very, very good, Ronan Groome, and she could be underestimated at 50 to 1.
Yeah, it's a fair old price now. You're taking a chance. You obviously haven't seen her over hurdles yet, but that's what you're getting in the price. And I was there at Navan when she won it was quite testing that day. And I think Derek O'Connor got off and said she'd win a heap of bumpers or something like that. She'd win all the bumpers around her. She could go for that grade 2 at Leopardstown. He was very impressed with her, but they decided to go hurdling, which is good. And look forward to seeing what I suppose you'll know your fate pretty quickly, I suppose, if she's down to run this week, and sure, we'll see what happens then.
That's the portfolios to date. In terms of the portfolios, Wilmount 16 to 1 for the Supreme. Mr. Policeman has a little bit of work to do, but don't fully give up on him yet. I think obviously was a winner at Fairyhouse, but workmanlike enough. Halka du Tabert, she's more or less halved in price since we touted her at 14 to 1. T Huppu 9 to 2. That's only going to get shorter between now and the stairs, and Only by Night. We've taken a swing, Ronan Groome, 50 to 1. And well, if she was to land, if we had no other winners at the Cheltenham Festival and she was to land, then we're in profit for the 4th season in a row. So Allegory Devassi, 7 to 2. You've gone with her. Gaelic Warrior 9 to 2. Look to the West. You also have interest in the Mayor's Novice Hurdle Run.
Yeah, I haven't seen any entries for her. Maybe she might run at Christmas or indeed Punchestown. I suppose the Sol Arena would be an option for her as well. So we could end up against each other there, which would be interesting. But Firefox very happy with that 12 to 1 for the Ballymore and Gentleman's Game as well. So look, we need to have a few swings, Basil. We need to kind of back all the obvious ones. And if you want to come out in profits. So look, that's what Ante-Post betting's all about, trying to get those big prices and arriving there in good shape on the day. And then you just have to hope it rolls for you.
100%. That's an example of where the price boosts are. The link is in the description down below in the video description if you want to avail of those price boosts. 50 to 1, but Only by Night and Gentleman's Game to win the Gold Cup, 28 to 1 from 20s, courtesy of our partners Boylesports. Right, Ron, that's been episode number 5 of the Road to Cheltenham Challenge. We encourage the loyal viewers and listeners to continue on with the participation. Make sure to get your selections down below. Give the video a like if you haven't subscribed to the channel as well. It always helps us out and helps to get racing content out there to the wider audience. We look forward to having Eddie Scally as well on the Thursday show. And yeah, a big competition we will be launching this week in relation to the Tayestes. So I'm sure there'll be a very, very happy winner when we announce that winner on the 28th of December. So on the Thursday shows, make sure to continue to get those 5 casts in, and we look forward to building up to the December meeting at Cheltenham, of course, this weekend. And we look forward to being back for episode number 6 of the Road to Cheltenham Challenge next week.